She worked on Game of Thrones. G'day, Paul from Small Crown Productions. Welcome to today's 100 Days of Shakespeare video. In this video, I'm excited to be chatting with Chantelle Gerrard. Chantelle's an old friend of mine. She was the head of wardrobe at the Pop-Up Globe for about 5 years in Auckland, New Zealand. She has worked on a number of their seasons that were both stationed in Auckland and toured to Australia. She has worked in the workroom of season 5 for Game of Thrones. She has been involved in productions in Australia, New Zealand, and London. And we had a good chat about Elizabethan costuming, clothing, and a whole bunch of other things. So this is the first in a series of videos with Chantelle, so keep your eyes peeled for the rest of them as they come out. Without further ado, let's chat to Chantelle. Chantelle, clothing in the Elizabethan period. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, they wore it, start with. A lot of the stuff that you would recognise nowadays, just from movies and other things. You've got your doublets and hose, which a lot of people, doublet is the kind of jacket type thing that would be the best way to describe it. Buttons down the front, sometimes they hooked and eyed down the front, laced and buttoned. There are a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. They would have their hose, which are what we'd call, I suppose, a type of trouser nowadays. Not like we know it. They would stop just below the knee, or right up on the thigh, or midway. It just depends. There's lots of different styles. Pumpkin, we call them pumpkin pants when they're puffy, and you know that's just a generic term that we use. There's pained hose, there's Venetians, which are more slimline version. It depends which part of the century you're in. Made out of all different types of materials, and you'd have your satins and silks, velvet. You could do all sorts of decoration to them. You can embroider them. You could so many things. You'd make them out of linen. It's just an endless smorgasbord of what you could do. But the one thing that and this is, we're talking about males here, every male would be the white shirt underneath, the thing protecting their outer garment from their sweaty, oily skin underneath. And some people in period would change these a couple of times a day, depending on how rich you are. The females, similar situation, something protecting their skin from their outfits. We call, the French call it a chemise, a camicia, however you say that in Italian. I am not good at languages. You should probably edit this bit out. All those people out there going, basically smock is how it's referred to sometimes by people. I prefer saying chemise, so it just sounds nicer. And there's things called partlets, which were, it just had no sleeves to them, came under they tied, and they were just under the bust, and they were another layer of protection. They also provided some modesty for the chest. Farthingales, which, if you know what a Victorian crinoline looks like, it's akin to that, but more of a cone shape. Came from Spain.
So they're the big ones with the hoops?
Yeah. I mean, people can look up all of these words and actually see what I'm talking about. But it's a shame that I don't have any to show you right now. But and you would have different garments on top of that. So you'd have a dress. Sometimes it would be a bodice and a skirt. Sometimes it would be a full-on what looked like bottom skirt but sewn together. Sometimes they'd tie together at the waist, like the doublets and hose would. And you could also have tie-on sleeves for females and things like that. There aren't as many records of tie-on sleeves for men, it seems. There's some things that have been found towards the end of the 1500s, early 1600s. There's little bits and pieces. It's all there's lots of stuff out there to read about if you're interested. I'm just trying to think. lots of amazingly embroidered gloves, lots of beautiful hats. We still have quite a lot of stuff like that that you can find in all of your I was going to say in all of your museums, but you can't really visit them at the moment. You can look at the online catalogue though. Uh, in fact, I've got a website that has extant clothing that I have physically seen myself and photographed, but also other things off different different museum websites. And they're fantastic to see in real life.
Yeah.
The detail is insane. It's just crazy. Same with the black work on shirts and just some of the doublets that have all of the embroidery on them too are just crazy. And the lengths that they went to actually make things and make beautiful things. And they've lasted for 400 odd years is the other thing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when you're talking embellishing, so even the men's clothing was quite elaborate with its embellishment, was it?
Yeah, there are some beautiful extant examples of stamped velvet doublets and things where materials being woven, gold materials woven. That's one of the, and it's a hose, doublet and cape set. There's some beautiful couched doublets out there. I mean, there's a fantastic book called Janet Arnold Patterns of Fashion, and she literally spent a very long time going around to all of these places all over the world, examining these things, measuring them, documenting them, making patterns from them. And I mean, that book itself has so many beautiful things in it that you can see. There's some other beautiful books from the V&A that they've put out, that they've started X-raying what's the actual garments, and you can see how they're constructed on the inside and what boning's in them and things like that. And all of these are available to be able to actually be seen in real life. And at Bath, you're physically allowed to touch them and turn them over at the museum in Bath. That was fantastic.
Oh, wow.
But in the V&A, they have someone there with the gloves that does it for you. And when you're ready to have it turned over, they carefully, or they take you to the drawers because things are too fragile. And while you're in there, someone else is looking and you see what they're looking at and you go, oh, could I possibly take some photos of that too? Yeah, it's just amazing. The wealth of stuff out there that we can gain our knowledge from is, I mean, it's not enough in my opinion, but it's a good start. So yeah, there are some beautifully embellished things. And then you just look at the photographs, the pictures of the actual period paintings.
Yeah.
So you just look at those, and some of the things the women were wearing, they painted on silk. There's a beautiful, even down to like weaving metal into other materials, and cloth of gold and things like that. Just things that are absolutely stunning. Just
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned before printing on velvet. So you're talking hand printing?
You stamp. So you
Stamping, sorry.
You can heat them up and stamp, or just push. But usually the heating them up works best. You can do that on satin as well, on silk.
So that's stamping with heat, is it? To create an embedded imprint.
Yeah.
So you'd sort of melting the velvet fibers, is that?
Yeah, sort of pushing them down, just mushing them, but they also cut them. They at the fibers, they carefully cut at the pile, and so they had
create designs in the velvet.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And it's not the same sort of velvet as you think about nowadays. A lot of people will, there are different forms of materials that we know today that was slightly different. Because if you think they're weaving them they're not mass producing them like we did in terms of, in factories. And, if they're weaving their own cloth at home for their own outfits, they're not going to be the same as going to Spotlight and buying linen off the shelf. It doesn't work like that. There's different types of, different types of everything, different types of dyeing, different types of uh, fibers, even sheep, different types of sheep that they use to what we get nowadays. So, and they're going to be pure wool, not what we used to, which is, acrylic
Yeah.
and wool mixed. Or it is a different time, but there are things that you can do to represent it as best you can nowadays.
There we go. Thanks so much to Chantelle for having a bit of a yarn with us. If you got something out of this video, it'd be great if you gave it a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, if you know anybody that might get some benefit from it as well, please pay it forward, share it with them, tag them in the comments, whatever you can do to help them out as well. And of course, have a look at one of these other videos that'll pop up real soon, and I will see you there.